Okay, welcome back to the second part of this weekly classical arena. Again, I'm going to continue the tradition of pre-moving. I really like their name, by the way, Free Humanity. It's a statement as well as a name. Alright, now I'm going to do... Snake Benonis are often interesting, but I'm going to stick with a kind of boring old Benoni. Usually, as a kind of indicator, if an opening is called the classical, it means it's still good. If it's called the old, etc., it usually means that it's been kind of proven to not be so good. So the old Benoni is not exactly the best way of playing. However, let's try a kind of twist on the Benoni, not fianchettoing for now. A6, I've provoked them into playing A4. Right, now I'll fianchetto. So with my provocation A4, that means that B4 is weaker. So at some stage I might end up actually playing knight to B4 in the future if I play like A5. But okay, that's way too far off now. Castles is simple. They do something. I'm not sure what. Castles maybe? No, knight D2. Okay, I'm doing that one first. Interesting. Alright, so yeah, knight D7. Just play it as simple as I can. Castles, I mean, they could go F4. That's the other option. Then I think you're meant to go knight to E8, but no, they played knight C4. They are not wanting to castle. Interesting idea. Knight E8 maybe? I don't know. Yeah, knight E8 looks okay. I'm thinking like knight B6 in the future, and if they go A5, I might be able to go B5. And knight C7, I can still go B5 next turn, because my rook won't be hanging anymore. Oh, I guess my knight would be overworked, wouldn't it? It'd be overloaded, because it'd have to guard B5 and A8. So possibly not the best idea. Never mind, I'm still a bit shaken from that last game. If you haven't watched the previous video, it might be good to look at it, because I was down to just a few seconds, and then I was probably worse the whole game, because I did some risky exchange sacrifice, but right at the end I managed to win with seconds to spare. So I'm playing a bit quickly to try and avoid that happening in this game. So while white has moved their knight 3 times, I've also moved my knight 3 times to c7. So the actual development issue is not really present with white. My plan involves either pushing f5 at the right moment or pushing b5 or doing both. Now here I do want to play f5 to prevent them going like e5 or f5. If they take me, I believe pawn takes is more solid, because it keeps my space advantage, it prevents them playing knight to e4, and I can still do stuff with my e-pawn in the future. So it takes. My king is a little weak, that's true, but I do sort of find this position quite interesting. It's a bit like the Clarendon Court opening, where you play c5 and f5 in a Benoni. Right, let's see. What will they play next? Now, what I'm planning is either b5. It might be terrible, but it's a move. There's also rook b8 preparing b5. That might be better, actually. But the other option is to just play knight f6. And allow knight b6. Okay, rook f3 has been played. This move is attempting to come across. So I think just before I do anything on the king side, I'm going to just cement my queen side, play b5, gain the space advantage. They've done a5. I think I have to play b5 sooner or later. Takes, knight takes. Yeah, I need to play b5 or never play it. Now, en passant, exactly, I do knight takes. They could do knight takes back, and I'll take with the rook. Now, I'll get some queenside play. As long as I don't get completely busted, I should be okay in the match. I do have to worry a bit about the king side. Knight a5, didn't see that move. Very nice, alright. Bishop d7 maybe? Preventing knight c, or at least discouraging knight c6. And then possibly queen e8 and slide across to h5 or g6 or f7 or something on the diagonal. Yeah, if knight c6, I'll have to take it. I'm not going to do any more fancy exchange sacrifices, I don't think. Rook g3, alright, scary looking board. King h8. Let's get out the pin. I did this against John Ems actually in a British Championship game, and then when I went King h8, he just went Rook h3, and I had the exact same problem. Not in this exact position though. Can't I take a pawn? Risk it. Take a pawn. If white loses that key d5 pawn, normally that means black is at least equal, if not better. I don't see, yeah, knight takes, pre-moving. Now rook takes g7 is not quite as stupid as it looks, but I don't think there's enough attack. I can always retreat my knight to f6 or take any bishop that goes to c3 or whatever. I am attacking b2, but that is a very, very minor minor thing. Knight to f6 is looking very, very safe here. I do like bishop check though. Patzer sees a check. Let's do bishop d4. Because knight f6 blocks in the bishop. This move ensures that they run the king to say h1. And I have knight f6, knight e3, bishop takes. Yeah, I just like my position. Yeah, I like knight f6. Just cement the position, gives me the g file for the rook. And yeah, pawn c3 is a move. Bishop f2. I'm just about okay. Yeah, I'm just okay. Bishop f2. I forgot about c3 because it's a Benoni. Normally white's got a pawn on c4. Just didn't occur to me. Alright, rook h3. Smyslov rule, just take everything and hope for the best. I think my bishop might end up being trapped, but I'm hoping that I have enough to be okay. It's like queen e2. I might have knight g4, just about defending everything. But yeah, it's looking scary. No, actually, I have queen takes knight, don't I? In this position, rook takes. Yeah, I guess let's go for it. It looks fun. Queen takes knight. This eliminates a lot of my problems. What do they even do? Queen d1? Yeah, queen d1 is looking like the only move. I'm hoping they just resign. That would be nice. But, looking at this logically, I'm ahead. I'm, a few pawns up, 2 pawns up. So by trading all the pieces, I get a winning ending. It's sometimes known as the Dolmatov rule, after Dolmatov, who's a very, very strong grandmaster. Tends to trade off lots of pieces and get to a winning ending. So that's my plan. And I'm thinking I know that I am sacrificing the exchange, by the way, because I'm going to get their knight, they're going to get my rook at the end. However, with rook b8, I've got all my pieces active. I've got really, really strong, massive pawns in the center, and I don't believe they can hold on to the exchange. Because what do they do? Rook a1 at the end of all that. Rook b8, rook a1, knight e4. Where are they going to go? Bishop c1. All their pieces are just so inactive that I must have a winning idea here. This must be good. If it isn't, then I'm wrong. But I have. I also have. If bishop c1 at the end, I have bishop e1 attacking c3, threatening knight f2 check. Yeah. So yeah, with this idea, rook b1, queen d1, takes, rook b8, rook a1, knight e4. I'm guessing I'm easily getting enough compensation for the exchange, and I'm 2 pawns up anyway, so it's not even like I'm material down. So I like this a lot more than my bishop on f2 being tied down and me being potentially worse for the next few moves. It trades queens also, which deals with my kingside issues. And they're really thinking about this. I don't really know what else there is to think about. What else can they play? Rook takes h7. I take with the knight. Then don't see where they're going. Queen takes bishop. I take their rook and win a piece. Yeah. Are they writing anything in chat? Is that? Oh, actually, the chat room might be for literally every single person in a tournament, so it won't be that useful. Normally, in an individual game that isn't part of an arena tournament, chat room is just reserved for the two participants in the game. I seem to have a couple of spectators. I must be one of the highest rated players, that was my guess. Okay, and they're still thinking. Interesting. So, trouble is I can't use like an analysis board type system here. You know, you can't analyze moves that haven't been played yet on the board, because that could be too confusing. You can go back looking at other moves. So if I go back just one move here, when they went queen e2, I did have other options. So I could have done knight g4. The thing was, I just was a bit scared of potentially things like queen d3 in the future, where they're threatening h7. And my bishop was being tied down a lot, so it was hard to see a way to guard the bishop. Instead of losing a piece, I decided to lose the exchange with this move, queen takes knight. Okay, they have taken me. Now, rook here, check, essentially forcing them to play queen d1. Rook takes, bishop takes is forced, then rook b8. So here's what I've analysed. Rook a1 is probably the only move. And by probably, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, there we go. Rook b8, rook a1. Now, knight to e4. This is as far as I've really got in detail. I did briefly look at bishop c1, bishop e1, and I seem to have a lot of initiative. But I haven't looked at any other white moves. So now is the time to look. Again, the further you try and analyse, the more likely it is that you'll get something wrong. So I generally try to only look 3 or 4 moves ahead, unless it's a very, very forcing sequence. You know, or there's there's some absolutely killer move in there. But here, what could they do? They could do rook d3. That's move 1. I think then I can just play like the bishop to h4. I've got the bishop out of danger. Threatening knight f2. They would go bishop e3 and then bishop f6, and I've got this attack on c3 that's still raging. So rook d3 to me doesn't look very good. Bishop to e3 is a move, but I could do... Oh, they've done it. Okay. Bishop takes, rook takes isn't looking so hot. I don't need to trade though, because if they take me, they lose the exchange. So can I go e5? F takes e5, f4. Oh, bishop f4. Am I talking about? And pawn takes pawn. Like rook f3, and they seem to be all right. Okay. d5 is a move. Bishop c2. d4. Takes. And they're very, very, sort of having lots of difficulties. They're really sort of tied up. Let's go d5. So I'm trying to get them to do bishop takes bishop, so I win the exchange. Now bishop f3 is a possibility. Okay, they went bishop c2. Same idea. Take my knight, then take the bishop. So what next? Rook b2 is a move. d4 is a move. Bishop takes bishop is not really what I'm looking for, but it is a potential idea. Alright, rook b2 is the most obvious move. I'll look at that last, because it's not really like entirely forcing, but it does have some merit. So d4 is the most forcing line. I have to look at this first. They have to do pawn takes pawn, I think. I might be wrong, but they have to take me. I take back with my pawn. They don't have bishop takes pawn check, my bishop's guarding it. Bishop takes e4, pawn takes bishop on e3. My pawn's a monster on e3, so strong. They do bishop c1 maybe? And then bishop e3, no, doesn't work. Bishop e1 doesn't do a whole lot, does it? Yeah, this is not looking quite good enough. Alright, rook b2 is just so active that it must be in the top, like, 3 moves, I think. I don't lose my bishop, by the way, because bishop takes e4, pawn takes, my rook is guarding f2. So I did see that. What do they do here? Bishop takes knight. I'm going to take with the f-pawn, because it would attack their rook from my d7 bishop. Then their rook is tied down. Oh, perfect, okay. Pawn takes. And then I actually have an interesting position. Do I do... if they do bishop takes f2, which I think is almost forced. Interesting position, actually. Do I take their rook or do I take their bishop? Because if I take their rook, they can go into a rook and pawn ending or into an opposite coloured bishop ending. If I take their bishop, though, they're the exchange up, but I still have all this initiative. I think I do just have to take the material. Oh, and they've done that. Well, didn't see that move. All right. Again, I have to take the material. I mean, it's Smyslov rule, right? Just take the material when you can. And in rook takes, I actually do rook to b1, so I have to do bishop takes. And then, oh, can I go e3? E3 with tricks. Bishop takes, then bishop takes g2. But if they do pawn takes bishop, I still do like pawn takes or rook takes. Rook takes to me just looks more active and accurate because I'm threatening e2 and then rook f1 check and I win easily. Yeah, rook takes f2. Pawn takes, and even though they'll win the f pawn, I've got the a pawn that's running. Yeah, and then just push the a pawn. They are just a little bit too slow. One move too slow. But I'd win anyway. I'm a pawn up, with their pawn structure being one of the worst I've ever seen. So I think they'll resign any moment, which they have. Oh, I gained 5 points. 2381. That's fantastic. And I'm in the top like 20 players. So I was hoping I would get somebody who was like 2,000 plus, but never mind. All right, Owen's defense. I'll try to avoid like mainline French positions. Again, if you haven't heard me say this before, I probably have said it like 2 or 3 times. I have played a few IMs in this type of position where, surprisingly, I've actually done very well in these types of positions. I think knight e7 is actually the correct move. Knight f6 does have e5 as a move I have to consider. So castles. I do need to trade off like a Nimzo position. Give them doubled pawns. Then d6 just to make sure that I've got a good structure. Small centre. Bishop to e3, absolutely. Knight to d7, keeping myself flexible. If they push either one of their central pawns, I push the other one and close the game up. I do need to castle sooner or later. f4 is the right way to play it, so in order to extend the range of my bishop, I play f5. If they take me, I take with the pawn or knight. It doesn't really matter too much. Well, it does, but to me it doesn't matter that much. And yeah, look at the position. I've given them a few holes in their position with all their pawns on dark squares, and I've taken advantage with knight to d5. Pawn takes pawn looks extremely suspicious due to knight takes bishop. Interesting move. All right. Okay. Just again keep it simple. Queen takes pawn is definitely easiest. Yeah. Queen takes pawn. I had to make sure for a second that it was good. Now knight takes rook just appears to be the right move. Much easier than anything else. Guess I could have done like bishop takes g2 or something, but that just looks ridiculous. All right. Okay, just again, play as simple as possible. My rook's not doing anything. Let's activate it. Knight f3. Again, play simple. Bishop takes knight. Trade off all the pieces. Queen takes. There's no discovered check that I can see on the board, so queen takes c3. g4. If I take them, then there is a discovered check with bishop takes h7, so I'll take another pawn. King h1. Now, knight f6 is looking quite good. Or knight c5. Knight c5 might even be better. Yeah. Trade pieces. Pawn takes. Okay. Just making sure to consider every option, but knight takes is looking good. Pawn takes. Queen d5. Trading off queens. And resignation. Good. Ooh, I'm number 12 now. Out of 2,000 players. So I'm in the top 1% of the players out there. Haven't lost a game, but I haven't really played anyone above... oh no, I did play a 2180 actually. So no one above 2200. It's very, very nice. Okay, who is in the top 10? There's a few 2000s, a 2300 as number 5, 2200 number 4, 2199 and 2179 number 7 and 8. And yeah, so I could play like a 2200 if I'm lucky, and 2000 plus basically across the like top 20 players, with the odd 1800 here and there. Okay, 2 hours to go. I will probably wrap up in the next, say, 40 minutes or so. All right. English. Let's play in English. How will they choose to play it? I have had a few players, actually, who've deliberately just run down the clock because they just don't want to play somebody who's high rated, but it's good that this person is playing me. Don't like winning in that style. Okay, knight f6, g3. I always go knight c3 first because it does take out a few options that they have. They're doing a reverse Sicilian, which I have lost to actually a few times. I need to make sure I play the right system. There was an old book called, I think it's called Strategic Games, or Strategic Chess Games or something, which is written in sort of the I want to say it's 1970s, but I might be wrong, which had a game in the English in this system where it suggested this move as being good for white, and I used to follow it blindly, and then I come to find out it's actually been essentially proven to be at least equal for black. But then again, the book is nearly 50 years old, so I don't blame the author if they're still an active chess player. Because there's no way you can know that 50 years from now you'll have trouble. Alright, now I've got a small centre advantage. I've got 2 central pawns. They have a grand total of 1. But d4 opens the game up too much. So d3 is actually the move that you often do in the English. It's a way to maintain light square control on e4. Later you can play pawn c4. And if you know where my a1 rook is going, congrats, it's going to the b file, because it's an open file. And often your attack is on the queen side in the English. So I'm not playing anything spectacular here. They've done their bishop to b6 as a safety move. I will castle. I'm still not entirely sure what to do with my pawns, but I will consider it later. Again, piece play is important. Rook to b1. It's not threatening anything directly, but it's putting pressure on their position in general. Now, this bishop f5 has actually been played quite a lot of times in some of my own games. It's an attempt to kind of provoke white into playing e4, but there's no reason for me to do that. Why should I play e4 and weaken my d3 square? Their bishop moves to e6. You know, what's my big idea? Now, what I am going to do though is knight d2. It's a backwards move, so it does at first appear to be a little bit incorrect. But the plan is to go knight c4, trade off their light squared bishop, their dark squared bishop. Ooh, interesting. Bishop there. Okay, change of plan. Bishop e3. Now, I will have doubled pawns, most likely. I'm trying to pre-move, but it's not working. Oh, okay, they have not taken the bait. Alright, well done to them. Knight c4 then. Then, oh, actually, do I want to take? Interesting. So I do want the bishop pair. Okay, they are... Ooh, they actually do have a small attack. Do I have f3? Is that a move? It looks horrible to play f3. Queen takes... bishop takes bishop and stuff. It's just not so good. Alright, so... Okay, forget that. Interesting position. I'm thinking rook e1 is a bit inactive. Rook b2 might be better. But then they have bishop h3, which is a bit annoying. I hate having that bishop traded. So rook e1, slightly inactive, but okay, it's something. Now, if they do bishop takes bishop here, I think knight takes will definitely be better, because taking with the f-pawn won't really allow me to have the f-file. Alright, bishop knight takes bishop. I need to get the bishop pair. A takes is definitely the correct move. Now, how do I defend myself? I want to say queen d2 is correct. c2 or d2? I think d2, just to give my bishop and queen a battery. Also defend the pawn. So where will they go? They could go to they could do rook a3, I suppose, and then rook to a8. So they have done rook a5. Interesting. All right, c4. Control the light squares. I'm guessing rook a8 will be played. Has been played. So rook b2 is definitely a possibility, but then bishop h3, and I don't know. I do have an interesting idea actually. It's a pawn sack, but it does help me play on the queen side. That's the thing. I'm going to do it because pawn sacks are fun. c5. Now, if they do rook takes pawn, which I am absolutely expecting them to do, because it's the obvious move by a long way. No, they've played b5. Okay, I was not expecting that move. All right. Okay, that's put a wrench in my idea. Yeah, I was hoping for rook takes a2, rook b2, rook takes, queen takes, and then I actually have b6 under scrutiny. Okay, this is definitely not my plan. All right, fine. Rook b2 then. Then bishop e6. All right. Well, rook b2. I have rook a1 if I'm really struggling. Offers a draw. He's only 1900, so I can't really take the draw. He's done bishop h3. Alright, bishop to f3, I guess. Bishop g4. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the position once and then play bishop h1. I don't want to trade off my bishop. Now, they could do something else, but I have a feeling they'll do bishop h3 to take a draw. Bishop h1. Queen g6, okay. What next? What next? What do I do in this position? a4 is a possibility, but then... Alright, where to go? Queen c3? Doesn't look that good. Queen c2. I just feel like my queen needs to be better. f4 is looking suspicious. I don't know. Where do I put the queen? Maybe I keep the battery, queen c1. I'm still going to try and tempt them into taking that pawn. Please take it. Take the pawn. Also, queen b1 is my idea to attack b5. They played b4. Alright, well, bishop d2 then. Try and get some queenside play. And then I guess... okay, now they finally took me. Good. Okay, so bishop takes. Rook takes, queen takes is what I'm pretty certain will happen. But then again, I've been wrong before. Knight takes bishop. I have rook takes knight. And I do have some attack on the queen side. No, oh, wow, okay, bishop c8. That was definitely not part of the plan. So do I take or do I play bishop d5? I feel I should play rook takes first, because if I do bishop d5, they have the rook takes b2, which is a simple way to solve their problems. But if I do rook takes first, and then bishop d5, they need to then find a place to put their rook. So the rook is going somewhere. Oh. Okay. Take it. And then queen to queen b2, I guess? Or, oh no, they have queen a6. Well, then maybe I'm still okay. Because then... Actually, no, it doesn't work. Okay, I have to go queen a3 to stop queen a6. That's the key idea. So queen a6. Queen takes queen, I think. And then I've got a nice little trick. Rook b1, so I'm threatening the mate on b8. So I was trying to win the knight, but actually with queen a6, I take and then go rook b1. So I think in the moves earlier, they should have maybe gone bishop e6, but I still had plans to try and take that knight with, at the very least, rook a1 winning it. But I also had various mating attacks. So here we go, rook b8. Got a very nice position. Which one to take? Which one? It must be the bishop. Bishops are a lot better in endings than knights usually on an open board like this. Also, I take on c7 with a bonus attack. King e8. That looks very, very weird. Where to go next? Rook a7 maybe. Stopping their pawn from promoting. They go g5 for some reason. Maybe f4. Just try and remove the obstacles pushing my d pawn. But first, I should just improve the king, just to make sure. h5. Okay, d4. Knight c6 is what I'm suspecting. Then I'll just take on a6. Make things as easy as I can. And I've potentially even got d5, stacking the d pawn and pushing c6, just to allow myself to promote the c pawn more easily. They play f6, never play f6. d5 is looking good. Whoops, nearly moved the rook to d5. Illegal. So d5, knight takes. At the very least, I have c6. Yeah, I could have done rook takes a6 as well, but this is probably good enough. f5. Now, just to make certain, rook h7 is looking quite nice. Yeah, rook h7. So I'm threatening c7, so their king can't come to d8 or d7. Knight b6. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll just take a bunch of pawns. Where are they going next? They're going king there, sure. Okay, now I know I can protect the pawn, but I actually have a way to win that is easier, I think. Now, very quickly, I need to really quickly calculate this. Rook takes knight, king takes, h4, king c5, h5, d6, h6, e6, h7, f7, queen. And then h4, a5, h5, a4, h6, a3, h7, a2, and win. Alright, and then just push the pawn up the board, and I will queen one move faster than they will. See? So I could have played it a different way, but this is so much easier than having to calculate everything else. So I'll win with my promotion to a queen. Okay, and then put the queen in front of the pawn to make sure there's no complications. I also have an extra pawn. Even if I didn't have it, it would be an easy win. And resignation. Good, good. So what am I now? 23, 83. So I've gained more points. Okay, got another 20 minutes or so of this video. Playing a 1700. Fine, okay. Alright, c5, go into a kind of a London system type position. Yeah, now d5 is an interesting alternative to what I've seen people do. Oh, I'm really hoping for knight takes, that's often quite fun. But no, okay, d6, just play simple. I'm not sure I'll actually Fianchetto this game. I might do bishop g4. Now I do have queen b6 and other stuff if they do annoying moves. e5 is looking like fun, let's try it. Quickly activate my pieces and hope for the best. I've got pawn e4 as an option. Bishop g5, okay. Is pawn e4 any good? Then pawn h3. Bishop takes knight, knight takes? Maybe, I don't know. It looks interesting to play this. Bishop takes. I didn't look at this move actually. Pawn take, queen takes, and queen e7 maybe. Or bishop takes knight straight away. Actually, it's quite fun. Bishop takes knight. Bishop takes queen. Bishop takes queen. Rook takes. Rook takes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there is pawn takes knight. Okay, that's a really interesting position. That is very interesting. Very interesting. I need to look at this for a moment. I hadn't fully calculated it, to be honest. Yeah, okay. So, wow. Yeah, okay. Alright, well, queen takes f6 is clearly the most active move on the board, so I have to play it. Looking at other stuff. Now, queen e7 is what I'm planning to do after they do knight takes pawn. Keep myself active. Playing it a bit like the the Icelandic gambit type positions. I'm hoping that with my castling move, I have the advantage. Knight to e5 is a move that I'm planning to do. f5 is useful. Knight e5 is definitely in the top 3 moves. So if they do h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes or whatever, and then maybe even g6 and f5, or just knight e5, keeping it simple. So what move could they do that's useless? h3 is what they've done. Alright, well this move looks ridiculous, but I don't actually see how they stop it. So take, then g6. Oh, they did pawn takes. Ah, yes. So is f5 useful? I'm going to say yes. Shove, f5. Now knight somewhere. g3 potentially. I'm going to go knight e5. I'm hoping they do knight f5 and I make them in 1 with knight takes f3. I'm really hoping they allow me to do that. But I have a feeling they'll be smart enough not to play a move that allows mate in 1. Oh, and they didn't let me do it. It's not mate in 1. I believe it's still extremely good though after f4. Because if they take with their queen, knight f3 is still mate. If they do queen e4, I can take the knight at the very least. Knight f3 might still be useful though. And king e2, pawn takes knight, queen takes queen, bishop takes, king takes, pawn takes pawn. Nah, it's not useful enough. I'll just take the knight. Really hoping they do queen takes pawn. Or some other ridiculous move like queen takes a7. Just anywhere except for basically queen e4, and I make them in 1. Queen takes, okay, thank you. Checkmate. Knight f3. Cool, okay, so that was a good win. Number 5, wow, number 5, that's not bad at all. I don't think I gained anything from that win, but I gained maybe like half a point. So if I play another person who's like 2380 minus 500, then I'll probably gain the 1 point for the 2 wins combined. Not bad, not bad. If I can get another like 2 points or so, I'll have gained about 12 since the start of the day. And I suspect it will be my last game, because It's been about 40 minutes of this video, and each match is at least 10 minutes usually. Alright, let's do e4. e4 is my most successful opening. I don't really know why I'm doing other openings, but I do need to learn my lines better. Alright, c5, Sicilian. Alright, let's go for it. Knight f3, d4, and I could take with the queen, but I'll take with the knight. Keep things still in the main lines. Now f3 is a move which leads to a kind of Maroczy bind a lot of the time, but I don't like that variation of the Maroczy, so I play knight c3, as does a lot of people. And here I actually choose to play the rather timid at first looking move order with bishop e2. e5 is the main line, and knight f5 is surprisingly interesting. So I will do knight f5. Bishop takes is considered good for white, but d5 is actually the main line. And like it's about equal, but some players seem to think black has the edge if anyone does. So right, bishop takes f5, pawn takes. Now d5, yeah, going into a somewhat critical position. But again, I've got active pieces and I can castle relatively quickly. Black cannot do so. So with their move, they have to guard d5. The only way I see for them to do that is to play d4. Or to do this move. Okay, bishop b4. I didn't really analyse that, because can't I take it? Takes knight, takes, then queen takes d5. Yeah, I don't see what else they can do. Now they could play like Ivanchuk, I think, and play pawn takes. Or they could do bishop takes first. Okay. Then pawn takes. Okay. So despite the fact that I can't win d5, I've got my king relatively safe. Their queen can't really go anywhere over to the king side easily. If they castle king side, it's a lot weaker for them. I can quickly get my pieces over. I've got a bishop versus knight in a middle game / ending. And where to put my queen? Queen d2. I'm going to go to h6 and await the mate from my rooks. King h8, yeah, very sensible move. I think queen h6 looks good. Keeps their queen tied down to guarding their rook and the f6 pawn. Looks very scary. They will probably do something like knight d7 maybe to guard both the pieces. No, rook g8. Okay, so they're doing that way. Alright, now rook d1. My other rook's going to b1, in case you were wondering. So activate the two rooks on the most open files, because the e file, it's hard for me to open it because of the e5 pawn being guarded by the f6 pawn. And as long as I don't horribly blunder, which is always a possibility, I think I'm doing well here. Rook b1, increase the power of my rooks. They do something, rook b8 or b5 or whatever. And I think bishop f3 will be coming. e4 is now very, very suspicious. I'm lined up with their knight, lined up with their rook, defending g2. It's a perfect bishop. So what will they do now? Knight e7 possibly? Queen takes f6 is almost certainly winning. They could do I don't know, rook a7, then try to go to d7 or something, but I don't think there's enough. It's just this is the kind of position I really, really like to have. I just have this iron grip on the initiative. And black, you know, even if they're technically okay in this position, they've really, really tied themselves up in knots. Not easy to play this whatsoever. And yeah, okay, my pawns are doubled on F and C files, and they have two central pawns, so strategically their pawn structure is better, but the most important thing is king safety. And after that it's material. And after that is, you know, who's better if the queens are on the board or off the board. Only then really is pawn structure to be taken as the most important feature. So I'm going to pin them. I can always do bishop takes knight, and then rook swings up to like b4. or to d3. I'm not sure which one. What about rook d3 straight away? Yeah, I like rook d3 now. I don't need to broadcast my intentions quite as clearly as bishop takes knight, so at least I have the option of taking their knight whenever. And rook to h3 is a killer threat. Like rook g7 is basically forced if they do that. So how will they proceed? Rook g7 now might be best. And then after rook takes knight, I could then double the rooks on the d file. So that would give me two options to go mating on h3 and then h7, or to make them on d8. So how to play for black? Maybe their best move is I don't know, maybe queen f8. No, queen f8 is terrible. Yeah, maybe rook g7 is the best move, just allowing me to double up. Definitely looks tricky for them to play. What else could black try? There is e4, I guess. It's trying to force my rook to make a decision whether to go to the h file or to stay on d. I probably would have to go rook h3 and then, yeah, rook g7. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just do bishop takes knight. Now I'm broadcasting what I'm doing, but I'm not sure they're in time to make any difference. I'm not pre-moving just in case they do something absolutely ridiculous, but rook d1 is coming. Now rook d8 is on the horizon. I guess they could go rook c8. That's a move. But I'm liking rook d7 after that, and then taking on f6. So rook g8 is basically the only move they can do. And I'm really close to winning, but I don't quite see the win. Maybe rook h3, rook back to g7, rook d7. Oh no, but the rook's guarding f6 via c6. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, maybe there's no reason to go for some huge attack. Maybe I'll just go rook d7, increase my positional power, have rooks on the 7th. You know, then what do they do? Queen f8. I can trade queens if I need to. But you know, queen h5 is good. Queen g7, then I don't know, queen f3 or g3 or something. Yeah, it just feels like I should have more than, you know, being positionally better, but I don't see how to really you know, drive the knife in, win the game. I mean, maybe rook g3 is good. Takes, h takes, and then I have rook d8 as a plan. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to go rook g3. Just keep the h file ready for a rook to move to, with like rook h1 in the future. And I do have a little trick if they take on c3. I have rook d7, and then if queen takes rook, queen f8 mate. So I have this constant threat. Oh, rook there. I did not see that move. Okay. Wow, alright. Rook there. Okay, so rook takes rook. Queen takes. Rook d3. Queen c6. Oh, I don't actually have a win. Rook g8 check, king g8. Rook d3, rook takes, pawn takes. Oh. Yeah, it's a nice move. Rook d6. Alright, okay. Maybe I play rook d3 then. So I'm threatening rook takes g8 and then coming across. Now I shouldn't do rook takes g3 if they do take me there, because I'd get mated. So they're doing takes. I think pawn takes is the most sensible move. Undoubling the pawns. So I have a little something here. I've got some space. I've got a better initiative, but I don't seem to have enough to win. Alright, never mind. I might have to try winning the queen ending or the rook ending or something, depending on what gets swapped off. So if queen f8, I can... Oh, actually, I can take on f6, forget it. So it might have to be a queen and pawn ending. But I do like the chances that I have. Yeah, rotates rook. Pawn takes towards the centre, I think should be correct. Yeah, this hasn't turned out quite how I thought it would. Thought my attack was good enough. Alright, well there's always the trick of taking on d3, isn't there? I don't think they'll fall for it. Yeah, they went king g8. But I have g5 actually. G5 looks quite nice. I'm guessing f6. So queen d3, pawn takes f6, queen d1, king h2. There's no checks. And they can't do pawn takes, I take their queen. So queen f8 might be best. Then I could just take the queens off, right? And then take on f6. And I'm winning. With tripled pawns on the f-file. For fun. What else can they do? They could do, I don't know, e4. Pawn takes f6. They can't even take on d3 with the pawn because I make them on g7. No, there's no counterattack for black. The only way they could draw this is by perpetual. My queen's hitting all the squares that perpetual checks will occur on the sort of h-file and the first rank. So yeah, I just don't see how black survives. Maybe the best move is queen f8, then trade queens, take on f6, king e8, and I can always go g4, g5 to protect all my pawns if I need to. Yeah, I'm happy with this. g5 I knew was much better for me, but I didn't know quite how good it was. Yeah, pawn takes, threaten to mate, queen d1, king h2. I can't seem to make the mouse move. King h2, and then I didn't see that move. Why didn't I see that move? Just so idiotic of me. All right, queen g7. I don't win. Might even lose if I'm not careful. Oh dear. All right. Oh dear. f3, I guess. And it's still going to be very amusing. I think I am winning though. Yeah, f3, and then they have to play. They have to play queen f4 check. Yeah, queen f4 check takes, and then king h3, and I suspect I'm better, but I am getting an amusing position with all these pawns on the seventh f file. Yeah. Actually, I could even just run to the h file, run to h6, force the king onto say g7 or h8, and then play g5 f4. That would be a way to prevent their king getting any activity. Which, I mean, maybe that's overkill. Maybe I don't need to do that, but it's a way of playing. Let's see. Oh, h5. Okay. Well, push the king up. I don't really see what they're doing there. How long's the video been going? 54 minutes. That's perfect. So that means that I can wrap things up in hopefully the next 5 minutes or so to make it around an hour. That way, 2 videos an hour each. And I'm playing a 2050 more or less, so I'll gain like 2 or 3 points. Okay, perfect. Finished on time. Gained 3. So I'm 2386. Wonderful. And pause. Don't want to play another game at the moment. I'm a bit tired now. But I'm number 3. All right, I'll take that. Number 3 at the time of finishing out of nearly my rating. 2160 people. So that puts me in the top, almost the top 0.1% of players. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. All right, well, hope you enjoyed this marathon video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.